AITAH for embarrassing my ex in front of his friends for his misogynistic behavior after he tried to set me up. I 24F was dating 28M for a year and 3 months, and it was good at the beginning. I know people say there are signs about certain types of behavior, or you can see like bits and pieces of who somebody is, but this man was so good about hiding who he was. Last week my ex-boyfriend, his 2 friends, their girlfriends, and I all went out to a cabin for a week and a half. I got along great with the girls, and his friends seemed nice as well. About 2 days in, we decided to play truth or dare to break the ice. I chose truth for a round. His friend asked me my body count, and the first tried to change the subject because, "It's my first time meeting you. You don't need to be in my business?" I declined to answer, and my boyfriend got very quiet and looked upset. I asked him what was wrong, and he said nothing. We continue the game, and his other friend dares me to tell my body count. I say no. 3 more rounds, and the first friend asks me when I lost my virginity. I call it a night and say I'm not comfortable sharing my sexual history with people I've known for 5 seconds. My ex-boyfriend goes, "Oh, you wouldn't have to be uncomfortable if you don't have anything to hide and you haven't slept with a large amount of people." I look at him and tell him, I don't have to tell these strangers anything about my personal life. We get into a small argument. I go upstairs for the night. The next day rolls around, and one of the guy's girlfriends comes up to me and tells me that she heard him talking about a different plan to get me to talk about how many people I've been with previously because my boyfriend doesn't want AS for a wife, and not telling him is it making him have second thoughts about wanting to marry me. I go alone to confront him about what he said, and he said yes, that he got them to try and ask me how many people I've slept with because he didn't want to offend me by asking himself. I asked him why it mattered, and he told me that he didn't want anybody that was ran through to be his wife and the mother of his future children. I asked about his body count, and he tells me that it shouldn't matter because men are different. That women are the ones who give access to men to sleep with them, and it's up to them to stay pure and blah blah blah. I told him if he has a problem that I've slept with people before him, then we shouldn't be together. He got so angry and told me that my time is running out and no one's gonna want anybody over the age of 25 because they're used up. Don't listen. Men prefer younger women because they're easier to mold. Like, you? I told him I was done and I'm leaving, and do not contact me after I leave because I do not want to be in a relationship with somebody who views women in this way. I packed my things, and while I was doing it, he kept saying that I'm making a mistake, that he didn't mean it, and that he just wanted to know and he was just curious. When I was heading downstairs, his to change because he saw his friends sitting there, and he started by being misogynistic again and told me that I'm old and used up and nobody's gonna want me and I'd be lucky to marry him. I told him that he'd be lucky if anybody was going to be desperate to marry someone who still pees on the toilet seat and with that receding hairline and that bald patch starting in the middle of his head. His friends started laughing, and he got so upset that he ran out the house. I left, and now he's contacting me all over social media and making different phone numbers to text me and say I am embarrassed him, that I'm a bitch, and going back and forth between I want to work this out with you, I'll get help, etc. I keep blocking his number, but he keeps making more, so I'm going to change my number. My mom told me that I shouldn't have went below the belt with the hairline and bald patch comment, but call me a slut, ran through, and I'm old. Oh well. Info, we played this game as an icebreaker. We're adults. If someone doesn't want to answer, I would think you'd respect that and move on. Also, it was a couple's weekend getaway, which is why I went on the trip. I hadn't been on a vacation since before nursing school. If he asked before this elaborate BS, I would have gladly told him. I didn't have an issue with telling him just people I didn't know. First comment, NTA, and thank God you got out of there. Sounds like either he is a red pillar or just a regular toxic pose. Body count does not matter for either gender, and this whole worshipping virginity thing is so stupid. Like me personally, as a man, prefer my partner to have experience because, well, it just makes the sex better in general, because there is less awkwardness and etc. And the whole thing is it different for men than women is just literally red pill nonsense, which goes back to thinking all humans are basic animals without intelligence, which is just silly. Wrong thinking either way, mind you, because most of those theories rely on outdated knowledge. Either way, he started with the embarrassing bullshit when he opened his mouth. The whole double standard that he is allowed to say anything he likes and you just have to sit there and take it is just stupid. BTU, have you talked with the girls from that night? Because, well, at least one of them knows what their BFs are like in general and willing to go through with misogynistic crap, but the other should know as well. Second comment, NTA, I knew the exact moment you said the question was posed during truth or dare that he was the reason it was posed. Boys, Not men, like that are so sure that they are correct on these things and that you won't ever find someone like them. Well, good, because you're dumping them for a reason. To make that big of a deal out of you having a sex life before him is dumb, like he knew you weren't a virgin. And that is where that conversation can stop, unless you both want to have the body count talk. The whole men are different, no. No, we're not. If we run through a lot of women and think that it is okay, but expect that there is this massive pool of women who are chastely waiting for our penis to come along and solve their problems, then we're stupid. SX is just SX, and sometimes it really is just SX, something we do because it feels good. Now your mom's saying you shouldn't have gone below the belt. Well, sure, this guy's head is so far up his ass he has to undo his belt to scratch his chin. You didn't hit below a belt. He wanted to play the find out games all weekend, and then he was pissy when he found out and tried to make it your problem. You shut him down in grand style. Kudos. Also, for those of us getting married in our 30s to older women. Yeah, 25 isn't the end of life or a dating pool, however most of the F-boys are out of the pool by then because no one deals with their BS. Third comment, NTA. Even with stupid stuff like body count and the age you lost your virginity being important to him, if he wanted to know those things he needed to ask you. Communication is critical in any relationship, and rather than ask something straightforwardly, he tried to manipulate you into revealing it to him. He isn't just crude and manipulative, but he's a coward. He didn't ask because he was worried you would be offended. So he's okay if other people offend you? He needs to hide behind his friends, rather than potentially explain his actual insecurities and ask you a question in an attempt to alleviate that. The fact he said he was afraid you'd be offended means he comprehended how asking this would go, and yet he still insisted on having his friends ask you. You're done with him. It simply doesn't matter if you went too far or not. But I don't think you did go too far. He was saying some hateful things. You're entitled to pushing him back. He doesn't get a pass because he's a man baby. That said, if he keeps up this pattern of behavior, calling you and getting new numbers when you block him, you might want to collect evidence and get a restraining order.